Amplifying the Speaker of What Is. And today with me is Nancy Neithercut, one of the most profound speakers when it comes to speaking what is in her own beautiful language. I am with Nancy Neithercut, one of the people I admire in this in when we are talking about this. Good afternoon to you, Nancy.
It's lovely to see you.
Yes,
Good morning to you
yes.
over there, continents away.
It's really a pleasure
Yeah.
to have to talk to people about different perspectives, and this perspective is the no perspective perspective, the encompassing mystery. The first question in my mind is, what is the story of Nancy before the story dropped? I don't know how to put that into a question. Like how
Well, enlightenment is a story too.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, it's still a story, but the story changes. It's like the dream of fear turns into the dream of love, but it's still the dream. Do you want to know what happened
Yeah, I was reading
almost 10
your
years ago?
yeah, I was reading your I don't know, I saw a post of yours in about the crayons, the blue green and the green blue.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
I
said
put
I'll
that
just
on this
ask you.
morning because someone was asking. Yeah, yeah. So you can read that whole thing. And of course, like all stories, when told, it seems very slim, you know, but for you, life is far more rich and lush than the fairy tale you can put out in a few paragraphs. But essentially, when I was 8 and I realized that I could never know what colors looked like for someone else. For example, what I called orange, maybe they saw that color and called it green, to realize that you are ultimately alone. And that brought about a deep depression, really, which lasted for many years until my 20s. And in my early 20s, I took acid for the first time, and it was like the light started to come back into my world. And I remembered this joyfulness and this awe that I'd had as a child. It wasn't a permanent shift then or anything, and it actually isn't anything, although I continued to trip for a few years quite often. It's still not like this. And I was a seeker. I read things. I didn't have the internet. I never heard of any teachers. I never heard of non-duality until way after the shift. No praise. But I had books, Zen books and Dzogchen Buddhist books, and Alan Watts and the.
Oh, I'm sorry, your internet connection it stopped there. I was able to catch the like you never heard of non-duality speakers. There was no internet
Oh,
before.
okay. Right. So, yeah, I just had books, Zen books, and Dzogchen Buddhist books, and some things like that. Did various practices, meditation. Just read a lot of things, and it got to the point where I was doing a lot of just watching the breath meditation. Boy, I was high. It made me really high, and I loved it. But suddenly, when I was 50, it occurred to me like a flash of lightning through my head that all I had ever done my entire life had not brought me closer to this goal. And I didn't know what the goal was. But I figured if I knew what I wanted, I would be looking for it. You know, it was just like, it was a moment of intense honesty and intimacy. It was really extreme, and nothing really precipitated it. I can't, there was wasn't one event that made that happen. And then there was like a month when I was completely just stunned, just, just stunned, like I'd had the wind knocked out of me. And then started several months of just feeling totally sad, despair, fear, and then moments of overwhelming joy, and then back down into sadness, and then joy. And through this period, I could tell that there were beliefs that were just popping away. I even thought at this time when this started that if I set my glass down on the table, that it might fly up into the air. You know, even ideas like gravity or anything like that, anything was up for grabs, because it was just so obvious that my world was apart. I never fought it. I never thought this is wrong, or it always felt right, even the really bad stuff. And about 6 months into it, it was obvious to me that joy and sorrow were the same. I couldn't explain it, but it was like there wasn't really any difference anymore. And then there were a few more months of a lot of anxiety and fear, like lying on a bed of nails all night long, just petrified and knowing not why. Still never fighting it at all. It just seemed right somehow. I talked about it with anyone. I didn't have a teacher or anything like that. I just kind of, I knew that there was nothing I could do about this. And then about a year later, after that initial bolt of lightning through the head, and I have it hurt a lot. It was not a very pleasant, but since it was interspersed with all of this joy, etc., it was neither good nor bad, but I knew that it was good somehow. I knew that something good was happening. And then that day, my husband and I cleaned this for a living. So I was cleaning someone's stove, and I had the knob of the stove off, and I was cleaning it. And suddenly, without any warning, my hand became the knob, became the rag, became the space, became the stove, became the wall. There were no things, and there never had been. There were never any separate things. And it was just so astounding, because I thought, wow, you know, if I'm not doing this, then how come my body doesn't fall to the floor, you know? Because surely there's no one here, but it didn't happen. I also thought, wow, you know, how come I'm not peeing my pants? You know, because there are no things. Because I had heard all about there's no self, but what does that mean when someone says there's no self, there's no ego? That doesn't make any sense, right? What do you mean by that? So, but I had never heard there were no things, that all separation is made up. It's a mental fabrication. And at first I thought, wow, this must be one of those special states, you know, that I had read about. This is one of those, you know, a weird thing. But, you know, 3 weeks later, it was still there. And it's been this way for almost 10 years. It never goes away. Just this knowing obviousness that there is no separation. And when the belief in separation goes away, the feeling of separation goes away. So it's more like a liquid, edgeless, seamless symphony of perception, and the simultaneous, inseparable recognition of it. There's absolutely no separation. But simultaneously, there's the worded world. There's me and there's you and love and beauty. So I didn't even call it enlightenment when it happened. I was never seeking enlightenment. I just called it falling through the cage of words, falling into indivisibility was the first thing I called it, falling into indivisibility. And I didn't have anyone to talk about it with. I was just joining Facebook at the time, and so I searched various groups, mainly the Zen groups and the Dzogchen Buddhist groups, because that's what I had been studying before. And I didn't meet anyone there who knew what this was. Nobody. There were people who talked about no self, but no one was talking this obviousness, because I thought, oh, this is so natural, you know, well, everyone must know this, you know, this is so obvious, blazingly obvious, but no one seemed to speak of it, you know. So it took about a year and a half until I met someone else who knew that there were no things or non-things. Yeah, you have a beautiful smile.
No, thank you. Yeah, you know, when I'm hearing
Yeah.
stories like these, like it's this separate, what I don't know what to call it. This Leonard is trying to conceive something like, I want to reach that state. And the questions are, did you cause it to happen? Is it an accumulated experience? Then suddenly this happened? Or because I hear stories about, let's say there's trauma, and then there's suffering, and then they went to religion, to new age, and then after new age, the new age spirituality, and then suddenly the story dropped. It seems like there's a pattern of of how things are going. And how, what
No,
do you
it's
say
this
about
is
that?
uncaused. This is uncaused, Leonard. It doesn't happen to you. It doesn't happen to anyone. The story doesn't drop. The story continues. It's just that there's no belief in the story. There's no belief in the dream of separation. There's no belief in the dream of enlightenment. It's just, it doesn't make sense. It's not something you can learn. It's not like, oh, the faucet's broken and I'm going to learn how to fix the faucet. You know, I'll look on the internet or get a book out and, you know, go to the hardware store and get the parts and fix the faucet. It's not like that at all. It's not a problem that can be solved with thought, because the whole problem is belief in thought, and you are the thought dream. So you can't step outside and manipulate the dream. It's not something that I can give you. It can't be given away. It's not really even an it. And it's certainly not a knowing or an understanding. It's not a rearrangement of thought. There aren't any separate things that you can rearrange into a thing called understanding or a place of rest. It's more like being eviscerated of all knowledge, of all knowing. Everything that you consider to be true about yourself and the world are completely blown away. Everything that you think you are, everything you think you're not, everything you think about the world and everything you think the world is not, all of it is blown away. And it can happen really fast, over a year, like with me. And some people, it seems like it happens kind of slowly. They kind of slip into it. Here it was an exceedingly painful. I mean, there were times during that year where I thought that no one could ever feel this bad without actually dying. You know, it just was so devastating. At one point there was extreme grief. My heart hurt worse than when my mom died. Extreme grief. You know, I was mourning my own death in a way, I suppose. So you can't instigate this because you're made up. That's like saying the clouds are going to change the sky, or so all effort, anything that you try to do or try not to do, just makes the illusion that there is a you doing something or not doing something stronger. So it can't be given away, and it is astounding. And I'm still here. I'm as real as you. I'm as real as tomorrow. I'm as real as love. So I'm still here. I never went anywhere. I never existed. And yet here I am. Here we are talking, worlds apart. But the character changes a lot. You know,
Yeah.
this character has changed a lot. I never used to see. I could easily see the wondrousness of the natural world, but I never before could have imagined how this wondrousness of just being human, of all emotion. I could never have imagined just feeling this intense love for everyone I see, everyone I meet. Everyone is so beautiful, so innocent. It just takes your breath away. It's so beautiful. And beauty is the dream. Outside of the dream, there is no beauty, there is no love. There is no outside to the dream. Can you find an edge to what's going on? I mean, is there an outside to it? There's no outside to what's going on. No. So if there's no outside, there's no inside.
Yeah. The thing in my head is
Yeah.
like, the old perpetual debate about a free will and predestiny. I was thinking like there's a puppeteer and we are just the puppets, but that's also another story. But this character cannot control it, right? Cannot navigate it, but there's just the illusion of me trying to navigate it. But it's still part of the dream, right? Like, let's say I
Yeah.
become.
Yeah. I mean, it might feel like there's a you doing something. It might feel like life is happening without a you. It might feel like there's a puppeteer or a god or that you're a puppet. I mean, it could feel like all kinds of things. It can feel like anything at all. It can look like anything at all. I think what happens, a lot of people, maybe most of the people I talk to, they're really seeking because they're trying to get away from fear and desire, and they're trying to get away from being human because they think that I've achieved some special state that's beyond humanness. But I'm just another human being like anyone else. There's just no belief in the dream. And this disbelief seems like you could say that it's the brain no longer believing in the mental construction it creates. And that's just another story. But it feels like it. It feels like that whole year was my whole brain rewiring itself. And then was suddenly, oh my goodness, there's no things. You can't go around talking to people like that. Guess what? There's no things. What does that mean? I don't know. So it's not like an accumulation of knowledge. It's more like a really delicious unknowing because there's no belief in the dream of separation. There's no belief in the dream of enlightenment. There's just no solidity whatsoever. And conversely, there's no liquidity. Yeah. So, I started talking about it, but poetry, I write a lot of poetry.
Yeah.
So that it seems the way it comes out seems to be poetry.
Yeah, your poetries are really beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Thunder. What a beautiful thing to say.
Yeah, that's what.
I love you too.
Yeah. I love you, and I really like reading the reason why I was drawn to, I don't know, it just happened. I didn't even plan this to happen. I knew it just happened, but there's this illusion of I planned this. But I was thinking, like, do you still, because there's this notion of people in there are a lot of stories out there, right? Enlightenment stories where there's just all love. Like, when you get to this state, there's no more fear, there's no more anger, there's no more sadness. How about, what is your view on that? Like there is no more those
Well,
emotions
it
after.
doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like there's someone separate from feeling. And it doesn't really feel like there's separate feelings. So knowing that life does itself and there is no other, better, more, or next, there's a seamless joy or love that supersaturates this dream of things. So anger, yeah, there could be anger. Fear, if a bear is chasing me, maybe. But that's really the end of hope and fear, or even a need of a never arising next. So a lot of fear is gone and hope. It's just really beautiful. And people will say, well, I never thought that I would have wanted this or something like that. I'm like, why not? Who wouldn't want this? Maybe not that year in between, but it's marvelous. If I could, I would give this away. I would. I would love to. I would love to give this away. But you can't give it away. It's not something that I have. I don't have this sublime emptiness. No one does. It's not contained. It's like love. Love is measureless. It has no boundary. It can't be owned. So it's like that. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I love what you said about life is doing itself. So in a way,
Yes.
is the mental fabrication or the separate self also life doing itself?
Oh yeah. The story writes itself. All of it. All of it. There's no before or after. There is no now. Simultaneously, life seems to appear, it self arises and self erases. It doesn't come from anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere. It's as thick as thought. It's the life appears and self erases simultaneously. It's not a thing, it can't be captured. There's no outside or inside. There is no this or that or both or neither. It feels like a liquid love dream. Love sliding into and through itself, like a wave crashing inside the ocean, seamless, edgeless. It's really, really beautiful. And yet, I'm going to school, I take classes, I'm married. I have a wonderful life with my husband. We go hiking every day. We make love. We cook. We lay in the sun when it's a nice day. So, from all appearances, it's pretty much the same. But as I said before, one of the main things is this intense love for everyone. It's so beautiful, and this awe, this feeling of wondrousness, this constantly blooming flower, constantly blooming, wide awake, seamless, edgeless dream of love, blooming and wilting simultaneously. So beautiful, this aliveness. It looks and feels like anything at all. So yeah, there could be anger. Um, come over and punch me in the face and I'll probably punch back. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty strong. You never know.
Yeah, because that's how usually if I go to non-duality Zoom meetings, I don't know whom I have in the past I have already asked, or sometimes I hear people ask about what about how do you see like murder or as a crime or politics, right? Is it also the appearance of this? Because that seems intense, right? That's such an intense dream, like somebody killing or murdering somebody. And then what I hear from
Oh yeah.
some people say it's also the appearance of this mystery appearing as that.
Um, I wouldn't ever say that. I wouldn't ever say that there's a thing like emptiness or mystery or everything appearing as all this. I would never say there's something called nothing appearing as everything. I would never say that. I would just say life appears and erases itself simultaneously. Um, and yes, I, I would think that murder is not a very nice thing to do. Of course. So I'm still a person living in this country with similar morals and values as other people. And you don't go on a murder rampage. It's more like a love rampage. But it's also so that if someone's yelling at me or something like that, I just feel this intense love for them. I feel their pain. I know that everyone longs for love. And I can feel this deeply. I can see it in everyone's eyes. Everyone has loved, everyone has lost love. And we share this. We all share this longing for love. And it's beautiful. This is what unites us. This is our humanness. And it's wonderful to share that. So, you know, there's no escaping the dream. There is no outside to the dream. Yeah.
So because I'm trying to put the questions in the mind of somebody who's new, because I consider myself as, I don't know, I'm in the either, I'm the either or of everything. That's how I I describe myself, because I started with religion, the new age, and then this, but I'm not like putting a hierarchy. I'm just, I don't know what to believe. I'm just in the middle of every
Yeah.
conceptualized
Well,
truth.
it's not like you can choose. I would say that as a seeker, I was drawn to certain things. I would hear phrases or something. And as I say, if you hear your heart song, you know, you will do anything to hear it again. You know, I would. When I first heard, I remember when I first heard Longchenpa, who was a Tibetan dude who died 700 years ago. But when I first heard a lot of that, it was like it clicked so deeply that, you know, I read a lot of these books and I didn't like all of them. The parts I didn't like, I just ignored. I didn't like everything he wrote, but I liked a lot of it. And there was something about the wording that just left me feeling just lost and, yeah, unknowing, in this delicious unknowing, which is on all the time. So those words just appeal to me. So if you hear a speaker of a non-duality or a religious speaker, or if you hear some person in India chanting a song and you don't even know what the words mean, it doesn't matter. I would say if it feels like it resonates, you know, isn't that wonderful that we can resonate with someone else's words who lived 700 years ago, or we can resonate with someone's words who's, you know, making a video in another country, or even that we can resonate with someone who's sitting right next to us, that we can communicate at all. It's because we have this shared learned language, these words, which paint our world. Trees are trees. My trees might be different from yours, but we can agree on what trees are. Because we can never know what it's like for another person. And there is our great aloneness that we all share. We can never, ever know what it's like for someone else. No matter how many words we share, no matter how close you get touching, you can never know. And this is our beautiful brokenheartedness that we all share, I say. This great aloneness and the longing to transcend it, the longing for love. This is beautiful. It's beautiful. Being human is, it's a hard job, right? Being a human being, right? It's filled with great sorrow, great joy. And we know that someday we and everyone we know and have loved will die. Every single one of us. And in knowing death, life is so precious. Life is so wondrous. This aliveness, it's apparent, this aliveness, right? It looks and feels like anything. It can look like murder, you know, it can look like breaking your leg. It can look like combing your hair. It can look like anything. And it's all just spontaneously arising and self-erasing all by itself. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can't step outside of life, right? You can't step outside of it and grab something and bring it back, you know, and you can't grab something and take it away from all this, you know, where would it go? So, you know, one of my books is called This Is It, but I should have said, this is it and not even that. Because there is no this or that, or both or neither. So Nothing can be said, but everything says it. There are no words, but there are many, many words. There are no things, but everything is included. So the poetry is, a lot of the poetry skips the mind out of the habitual grooves of assumed knowledge. You know, when the words come in different ways that are unexpected, and you think you're reading and it's going along and you're going to get to a conclusion, and then I'll just throw you off the cliff.
Yeah, I think this me is trying to create a hopeful story because, to be honest, I bought a lot of stories like, let's say when you die, when this body dies. That's why every time I attend Zooms, I ask, what if this Leonard dies today and it doesn't get what you guys are getting? Will it recycle in another body and finds itself again in another story? So because there's stories like life review, there after you die there's this your spirit guides, and there's this another dimension, and then you get another body in your next lifetime. There's a lot of religion about that, like, and it's another story, right?
Yeah, those are very comforting stories. There's nothing wrong with those stories. They're beautiful stories. If it helps people throughout life to have this hope and to have hope of an afterlife, I mean, that's wonderful. Got nothing against it. I never held those beliefs before, and I certainly don't have them now. But I think one of the lines that you just said puts it all in a nutshell. What if I die before I get what you guys have? Well, I don't have it. No one has this. We can't give it to you. No one's got it. There's no you to get it. Yeah, it's but all I can say is, you know, don't you love deeply? Yeah. Don't you comb your hair? Yeah. Don't you enjoy some of your food? And maybe you enjoy sleeping? Maybe you enjoy some of your friends? Maybe you enjoy listening to non-duality talks. And, you know, sometimes there's tears and sometimes there's wonder. You know, whatever seems to be happening is what's all you'll ever know. You know, you can't know something outside of this. So what appears to be happening is the story of Leonard, and it's beautiful and unique. Yeah, I mean, it's I've never met anyone, at least personally, who hasn't loved and lost love. I mean, that's what we share. Um, I have no idea. I could die in 1 second, or I might live for many years. My dad, who's 89, was just really sick for a few weeks, but he's better. But there wasn't ever any worry. The worry's gone. There's no worry. But it's not saying that if or when he dies that I won't cry a lot. I'll probably sob and sob. But there's no worry about the sobbing, no worry about the loss, because there is no next. You know there's no next. You've never found one, right? Have you ever found a next? No, there's no next. Huh. Is there anything other than this? No. Uh-uh. Anything more than this or less? No, you know that. But it's not to say I don't make plans. Like I said, I go to school, I take classes. I got all kinds of plans. So yeah, life continues somewhat like before, but with this delicious unknowing and wonderment and this feeling of seamless, edgeless love. And I just like looking at you, I know without a doubt that you are beautiful and innocent and you are not broken. Without a doubt. I mean, you're just totally, totally beautiful beyond measure, just as you are, just as you think you are. All of your stories, all of your hopes, your fears, your dreams, all of it. could not be beautiful. That would be impossible. Absolutely impossible.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
it's really
Wow.
it's really perfect the way you say it. It's like this just wants to drop the worry and the fear. You know, this
Yeah.
character. That's the really the goal, because I think, like what you said earlier, human life is really not easy in my the way I
No,
conceive it.
it's not easy. Yeah. Yeah. So are you worried about not having worry? Are you worried about worrying? Are you scared about always being in fear? Do you hope to no longer have any hope? Because remember, when fear goes, hope goes away too.
Hmm.
So you'll lose that. You lose everything. You lose everything, including love. Even love is known to be the dream. Even love, the one thing I was really looking for, even that is the dream. hmm Yeah, and like I said, if it was a thing, I'd give it away for sure. I'd have a little fairy dust and throw it on everyone. I don't know how well the world would work if everyone were like this, though. Uh, yeah, not that I'm completely ineffectual, but I
Yeah.
love doing what I do.
So it's like,
Yeah.
let's say, the billions of different bodies, different human beings have their different stories, and nobody really can tell, right? Is that how you see the world? Like different stories in different body mind, or and then and the story continues.
I've never really thought about that because here the feeling that there are actually separate bodies is the dream. And all separation is the dream. All separation. But in this worded world, this dream of separation, there are billions of people, and every single person longs for love. Every single one of us. Yeah, we share that, and that's beautiful.
Hmm, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
is
was just
nice.
wondering, do we wake up from the dream, or life just wakes up by itself through us?
But no one wakes up from the dream. There is no outside to the dream. Mm-mm. There's a waking up, there's an awakening to the dream. There's a knowing that it is a dream and that you are dreamt. I am a dreamt character in a passion play, in a watercolor dreamscape of time and space. But, and it's beautiful. The sky is blue. Sometimes it's cloudy. It might snow tomorrow. It might rain tonight. The wind may blow. Yeah, yeah. A truck might come down the street and run me over. It's possible. But there's no worry about any of it. It's like, yeah, the wondrousness pervades, this feeling of love pervades. Um, but there has to be imaginary separation for love. There has to be a split, an imaginary division in order to have things like love and beauty, and in order to have flowers and colors and scents. So this sensuousness of life, it doesn't feel like it's being felt by someone. It's just obvious. This sensuous life, rich and lush and marvelous, no matter what it feels like, all feeling, all emotion, all sensation is a confirmation of your aliveness, right? All of it. You know, who said that sadness is bad? Who said that worry is bad? Who said that fear is bad? How do you know it's bad? What's bad? What's good? You know, it's whatever it feels like. I mean, you can't plan on I mean, when I was a seeker, I wanted to have nice, fluffy feelings all the time, you know, and I wanted to have really intelligent and good thoughts, nice thoughts, you know, because I thought there was a certain way to feel, a certain way to think. But there is no right or wrong way to feel or think or live or love or die. There's no right or wrong way for anything. And there's no chooser of these things. And there's really no separate things to choose from. So it's just life happening as it does, arising, self-erasing simultaneously, without time, without space. I mean, I'll say that there is a physical world. It's assumed that there's a physical world, but we can never really know it because everything that seems to be happening is like a dream, like a nighttime dream. Where does the light in your nighttime dream come from? It seems just as real as the daytime dream, doesn't it? Yeah, just as real. The characters seem just as real. You know, it's the difference. It's memory. It's the memory. It's the repeatedness, and it's the memory that makes the daytime dreams seem more real. Because we are these memories. The story of me, the story of you, is like a rich tapestry, three-dimensional tapestry of memory. You know, and some comes up and goes down. Without memory, you know, you would know how to swallow. Because actually in Alzheimer's, that's one of the things that goes when the mind is going, when the brain memory goes, they forget how to swallow, and that's actually what kills people at the end. So without memory, you wouldn't know what a tree was, or mountain, or the sky. You wouldn't recognize your loved ones or yourself. So memory, all these stories are what you are. That's what I am. I'm all these stories. And meeting you and hearing your story, now your story is part of my story. So it's like a flowing profiles of faces, of all the faces, of all the ones you've loved, everyone you've met, all the stories you've ever heard, the stories you read as a child, or the stories that were read to you, everything you've learned, all your entire lifetime of experience. And a lot of it is what has been imagined. That's part of the story too. You know, imagining that there's purple unicorns on the mountains, you know, or what all that's part of the story too. It's really liquid, isn't it? You can't find one thing that you are, can you? Is there one thing that's unchanging? No, it's just all this flow. You're a flowing thought dream, as am I. It's always changing, you know, and really changing is a thought, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So is it changing or not changing? You know, thought is a thought. So what can you say? Can you hold thought? Can you grasp life? Can you hold on to this magic that you know is there? Can you hold on to love? Can you hold on to the sky? Can you hold on to space? No, because you're not separate. You can't grab anything. You're not separate from anything. It's like you can't say, as life is happening, you can't say, okay, now's the beginning of a thought. Now's the end. You can't say that, can you? No. Can you say, okay, now's the beginning of a moment, and now's the end? No, you can't say that. How would you know when the beginning and end of a moment is? Are there beginnings and endings to moments or thoughts? No, you can't, because you are not separate from this flowing momentary. You're not separate from this thought stream made of shared learned words, which paints the landscape of ourselves and our world, which seems to separate things. So isn't that wonderful? Yeah. You don't have anything to do with this.
Everything you just said dissolved all the questions I was supposed to ask.
Uh-oh. Well, maybe you wrote some down.
Yeah, I was like, because it really, the way I see it, like one question leads to another question, and it's gonna be an endless series of questions, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not here to answer any questions, really. All I can do is share what it's like for me. That's really it. I don't have any answers, and I don't have any questions.
Mhm.
All I know is that there is this unknowing, and it's marvelous to this liquid world without any solidity, without any edges, that is always apparent, inseparable from this seeming world of things, of snapshots of time and place and space. Um, it's not like really two worlds. It's more like love sweeps away all things, love erases all things, and simultaneously seems to form things. But seems is the key word. Seems. Yeah.
Mhm.
What seems to appear. But like I said, I'm as real as you, as real as tomorrow. Ever found a tomorrow? So I think that a lot of seekers, what are they looking for? They're looking for solidity, right? They're looking for certitude. They're looking for knowing. They're looking for knowledge. They're looking for an answer. Well, there are no answers. There is no solidity. There is no certitude. There is no knowing. All we can do is describe. All words lead to other words. You know, we are this flowing description. Um, what is a flower? I don't know. Do you? It's a thing with petals. Is that a flower? I don't know. A flower can only be described by other words. And so, in seeming so, all of these words that relate to one another, that define each other, seem to create this web, this web that is our world of things, of this known world of separate things and events and time and space and place. But it's made of words, it's made of thought. How substantial is thought? How thick is thought? How thick is the word thick? So it's amazing that thought seems to create all these things, because without thought, what you could say is this seamless, edgeless symphony of perception. It's completely liquid. And then the word like tree seems to like throw a lasso, create this thing called a tree. Throw a lasso. Oh, there's the sky. But in actuality, there is no sky outside of thought. There is no outside of thought, because outside is a thought. Pretty fun, huh?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. The beautiful masterpiece of language of words. I really like it.
Yeah, it is fun. It is fun. That's why I write every day, probably.
Mhm.
It's a lot of fun. Words and phrases seem to spring up, and I watch them magically appear on the computer screen, and then there's a poem.
Yeah,
Wow.
and the
Yeah.
and the meaning that people put on it, it's different, right? It's a different story. Like the word love can mean
Oh,
different
yeah.
things, and it's still part of the tapestry.
Yes. Yeah. It's beautiful. I mean, because of memory, and that we are memory. When you read something or hear something, you're going to put what you hear into the boxes of memory that you already have. You know, the assumed known world is these boxes of what trees are, what flowers are, what love is, etc. And so if the poetry can kind of skip your brain out of doing that somehow, and so it loses its place, the book gets flipped through, all the pages are going by so fast and you can't find your place anymore. It's kind of like inducing a confusion or a lostness. um, the people who like what I write say that. It just makes them feel like a sensuous lostness. And I know that when I was a seeker, I liked words like that. So probably why I write them.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm. Like I think
Yeah.
my last question is, when you were a seeker, like what difference have you found after the seeking? Like how different was your life, or was there any to begin with?
Oh yeah, well I already talked about that.
Oh yeah,
This feeling of love that's always felt, loving everyone, this feeling of indescribable beauty about all of life as it seems to appear, the knowing feeling that there are no things, that there is no separation, that it feels like a fluid, liquid dream of love, all of it. Studying for classes, writing out my papers, all of it, it all feels like that. So it's just a huge difference. Yeah.
yeah.
Before it felt like, okay, before it felt like I was driving in a car with square steel wheels on a rocky road.
Mm.
And after the shift, it's like you're driving in a car with round wheels of air and the road is paved. And then you could just kind of take off into the sky on your cosmic wheels. But my feet are still on the ground. I can see them. My big flat feet padding along the sidewalk. So, yeah, there's both and neither. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, this is really a
Yeah, it is.
beautiful,
Wow.
yeah, very
Yeah.
ineffable. It cannot be. It's just beautiful. Like the seeker in me says, sometimes maybe I should stop, but sometimes it's deceptive. It's, I feel like I should. It's stifling the seeking energy in some form. But there's a part of me that
Yeah.
maybe just wants to explore it, or maybe wants to attain something. But from how you say it, it's all perfect as it is. There's no this or that.
Yeah. I mean, really, there's no perfection or imperfection, but it feels perfect. Yes. I would never tell someone to stop seeking. All I can say is there is no you to seek or not, or to choose it or not. So, as I said before, if you hear your heart song, you will do anything to bask in those beautiful words. And it might be music, maybe you like to go dancing or play in the ocean or. Yeah, you can't help yourself. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
really, thank you so
Mm.
much for sharing all these beautiful art from you. I
Mm.
really appreciate you talking about this and sharing your story.
Oh,
But
thank you. I will send you some PDFs of my books if you like.
oh, sure, thank you. Really, thank you so much.
I'll send them to you. Yeah, I've got my ninth book coming out soon. So, yeah, the river pours.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, by the way, before
And
we,
I've got a YouTube channel too where I read a lot of my poetry.
oh yeah, I
So
was
you can
about
listen to.
was about
Yeah.
to ask that, like, how can like
Oh,
people
okay.
watch your YouTube and your maybe you have a website or something.
I don't have a website, but I have a YouTube channel where I give talks. I talk about thought and feeling and love and enlightenment. And I have one of a playlist also that's just me reading poetry. And I hope to read a lot of my new book that's coming out soon, also in the next few weeks. Because a lot of people like to download it and then listen to me read, um, which is great. I think it's great. Just don't fall asleep while you're driving. Yeah,
Yeah.
all my books are on Amazon if anyone wants one.
Oh yeah. We're just gonna put links on the description box. Think really,
Okay.
it's really a beautiful
Okay.
day today. Thank you so much for allowing me to listen to your story. Very beautiful story. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very beautiful, Leonard, and thank you, thank you, thank you for talking with me. I
Yeah.
love you.
Love you. Thank you, and have a nice
Yeah.
day. Bye.
Okay, bye.